Triple B on the dial, yeah. The Lone Gunman Podcast. Cold case talk, deep dive, let's ride. Cuba in the blood, truth in the fire. Fair play for Joe Borellay. Triple B got the file, got the map, got the names. One shot, one frame, but the story never same. Parade turned quiet, then the whole town shook. Paper trails dirty, every page got a look. Grassy, no rumors, backroom smoke. Stamp on the evidence, the people still spoke. Deal in the shadows, handshakes in the dark. Every official answer got a crack in the mark. Miami to Dallas, hear the whispers roll. Who pull strings, who played God, who bought the soul? We don't chase ghosts, we chase what's real in the Lone Gunman archive. Every lie gets peeled. Hold that line, check that tape. One more clue, one more break. Triple B, say the name. Truth gets loud when we bring the flame. Fair play for Joe Borellay. Say it loud, say it all day. Fair play for Joe Borellay. Triple B, we don't play. Fair play for Joe Borellay. Keep it live, keep it brave. Fair play for Joe Borellay. Conspiracy in the grave. Was it heat? Was it bait? Was it more than one? Was the whole board set before the day begun? Fives go missing when the pressure gets high. Too many hands in the pie, too many eyes in the sky. Witness got nervous, then the witness got gone. Timeline crooked, but the tape kept on. Ask the old heads, that's the ones who know. That's why they play the story, never told a whole show. Triple B brings the noise, brings the facts, brings the steel. When the truth gets buried, that's when we feel. No fairy tale ending, just a puzzle in the box. And every new answer makes the old one rock. Fair play for Joe Borellay. Say it loud, say it all day. Fair play for Joe Borellay. Triple B, we don't play. Fair play for Joe Borellay. Keep it live, keep it brave. Fair play for Joe Borellay. Conspiracy in the grave. Hold up, listen close. Who profited? Who let go? New names, old smoke, same dark room, same strange oath. Fair play for Joe Borellay. Say it loud, say it all day. Fair play for Joe Borellay. Triple B, we don't play. Fair play for Joe Borellay. Keep it loud, keep it brave. Fair play for Joe Borellay. Conspiracy in the grave.
Cuban flavor in the building tonight. It's fair play for Joe Borellay.
Hey,
Happy birthday, buddy.
thank you, man. I appreciate it. And it will be Sunday, and just in time for my birthday, my USA hockey jersey came in with 86 Jack Hughes, who scored the winning goal. Ironically, wears my number, so I thought that was kind of cool, and I'm debuting the jersey for this episode. But how are you, sir?
Fantastic. I'm happy it's Friday. I'm glad we're here. I've been looking forward to this episode all week long.
Yeah.
And real quick, folks, make sure you're tuning in tomorrow morning, 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Quick hits. Be coming at you live in the morning. But that's tomorrow. This is tonight. This is the Lone Gunman Podcast. I'm the Triple B. He's Joe Borellay. And tonight we're going to be getting into about the FPCC, a little Ed Stuckey, a little Oswald, of course, and then maybe some other things. But yeah, exciting times, Joseph.
Yes, they are indeed. And, just before we start, a little funny birthday drama that I told you about a little bit after the show on Wednesday. Members only. If you're not a member, do that.
Yeah, and I believe you can also sign up for a free trial of the membership. So what are you doing?
Right. You have access to how many back episodes?
Yeah, a lot.
A
Not
lot.
to mention you get early access to the book review, early access to Rob's or Random Research Ramblings with Rob.
The quadruple R.
Yes.
But yeah, so I everyone's trying to like do these birthday things with me, fucking barbecues, all this gay shit. Sorry. And not that there's anything wrong with that. And and I just want to be by myself, and I know you can relate to that. Just like chill.
Yeah,
Um,
I'm by myself all the time. So, and I love
yeah,
it.
yeah, it's great.
I'm alone. I'm not lonely. Okay,
Yeah,
there's a
I,
difference.
I, I'm not trying to blow out birthday candles and that type of stuff. So my cousin, you know, some of you know, our family has a property in the Catskills, and my cousin is up there a lot. And he unfortunately lost his wife to a brain tumor a few years ago, and I noticed he was up there by himself. So I said, "Why don't I go up there tomorrow morning?" Of course, pod takes precedence, right? Um, uh, uh, and just like have a quiet weekend. We go to the farmers market on Sunday morning, and we buy this really authentic grass-fed beef and other chickens and stuff. And it's actually fed by the hay that is harvested from our property, which is kind of like a cool concept, I guess. Right? You know where it's coming from. And then some family members decided to try to hijack our weekend. But I don't have a problem with that. I have a problem with their dog because their dog is like a husky wolf dog. Like he tried to attack me, and I'm a dog person. He trampled my old dog last time, and after Ruby's recent attack, I didn't want, like, now I can't bring up Ruby. So a bunch of drama ensued, of course, because you have three co-owners, you have 7 or 8 grandchildren, you have multiple great grandchildren, and like blah blah blah.
Don't y'all have like a dib system? Like, hey, this is our weekend. Fuck y'all.
We have a calendar system, yes, Google calendars, and but we didn't say us only. So
We shouldn't have to.
right, I mean, I don't think people knew our birthday. To be honest, our birthday weekends. So, anyways, after a bunch of drama, I guess they're not coming anymore. So I'm going to go up tomorrow morning at about 8 a.m., leave, and with the Ruby, and have a nice, relaxing weekend. So I'm looking forward to that. And, we'll do whatever dinners or barbecues later in August, I guess.
There you go.
There's my birthday, right?
All right. Now let's get down to business, shall we?
We shall.
Folks? All right. So the Fair Play for Cuba Committee, I believe, came about somewhere in 1960 range, and it was founded by a dude who had some pretty substantial, uh, wealthy Cuban contacts, shall we say. He managed to meet with Fidel Castro and secure, I believe, and this is nothing really to sneeze at from back then. Uh, I believe it was $5,000 from Fidel Castro. Or no, 15,000. I'm sorry, which is a good bit. In today's money, you're talking 150,000 or more.
Right.
To start this committee to promote fair play for Cuba. They were against the blockades, the neutrality laws, the treaties, and all of this stuff. Just to play fair with Cuba. Don't mind the fact that Castro is a communist now and he's in bed with the Russians, but we still want you to treat him like family, type of thing. Which, of course, as you can imagine, didn't go over very well. Now, of course, they were, well, the United States had its fair share of communist sympathizers back in the day. There was the American Communist Party and various other entities such as the Fair Play for Cuba Committee. Not quite as big, but of course, something like this drew the attention of the FBI. Of course, and they were going to want to know what these guys are doing, what's going on, what are they about, and well, for part 2 next Wednesday night for members only, I'm going to go more into the story of Harry Dean and how he became an FBI informant for the Fair Play for Cuba Committee to the FBI, and so on and so forth, and his JFK assassination connections, if you will. But that'll be for part 2. There's just a lot there to unpack to throw him in here tonight, but it seemed like a good part 2. But let's talk a little bit about the FPCC. So let me share my screen with you. All right, what we have here is a copy of. Oh, hold on, Joe. Who is it? You're muted.
Mike, the library man. Happy birthday, Joe. Thank you so much, Mike. I appreciate it. You
Yes.
are one of our most valued members, and I appreciate it.
Yeah, man, that's awesome.
Yeah, thank you. Oh, hide it.
All right, so what we have here, folks, is part of a pamphlet that Oswald was handing out in front of the International Trade Mart. Okay. And I believe the date was August 19th or 20th. This is, of course, after the fracas, post fracas, as they say. And as you can see down here in the corner, you have the infamous FPCC 544 Camp Street, New Orleans, Louisiana.
Address, right?
Now, this is a big problem, okay, for lone nutters and other folks. Because the Fair Play for Cuba Committee allegedly did not have an office at 544 Camp Street. This is, of course, an address that was above Guy Bannister's office, around the corner, but part of the same building. And the interesting thing with this address is this used to be the address for the Cuban Revolutionary Council,
Right.
but it ceased being that sometime in 1962.
Right. Yeah.
So here's the age-old question, Joe. How in the hell did Oswald know that address specifically used to be for the Cuban Revolutionary Council, which is a group of anti-Castro Cuban exiles?
Well, did he know? I mean,
Well, he either had an office at 544 Camp Street, or
no, I'm
he's
not debating that.
okay. Well, there's only one of two options here. So either he had an office there, or he's trolling them by using this address.
Correct. Or he's actually someone who's pretending to be pro Marxist. Right?
I wouldn't think so. How would he know that the Cuban Revolutionary Council had an office there? He didn't come back from Russia until midway through 1962, and by then they were already out of 544 Camp Street.
Right.
So
June was when he arrived in New York City, right?
yeah. So how would Oswald know that the CRC ever had an office in this building?
I do not know. Hearsay?
But I mean, what's the point? is what I'm getting at. If they hadn't had an office there in over a year, by the time he's handing these leaflets out,
Yeah, I don't know the answer. I mean, grapevine, maybe. I don't know. But I don't have a good explanation to how he would know that.
so you're under the impression that this is a troll maneuver.
No, I didn't say that. Um, I haven't quite made up my mind yet.
Okay, fence sitter Joe, everybody.
Here we go.
Jesus Christ, have an opinion. Okay, here's my opinion. He's trolling him. I think it's safe to say that he didn't have an office there in that building. And likely from talking to some of his contacts, such as Dave Ferry and a couple of these other anti-Castro Cuban exiles, maybe even Guy Bannister himself, who knows that the CRC had an office at this address in this building at one time. Or Joe, there is another possibility. And I don't know how much I believe it, but let's take another look at it. And let's blow it. Let's blow it up a little bit here.
But wasn't his like he didn't have an office there for as long as people like to think he did? But wasn't it like about a week, and he was kind of maybe paying by the week or something like that?
He wrote that in a letter, but the owner of the building said he never rented a space to Oswald.
When did the owner of the letter say that?
What?
After the assassination?
The owner of the letter?
The owner of the building.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Plausible deniability. But continue, sir. I don't know.
I don't know either.
Devil's advocate. I'm just saying.
Because if you look at the stamp very closely, you know, some folks have alleged that, well, maybe this literature was stamped with just the 544 Camp Street and that Oswald added the FPCC later. But if you look very closely at the C in Camp Street and the C and the two C's in FPCC, I think they look pretty damn similar. So my guess is this is all part of one rubber stamp, you know, that hit from Oswald's little stamp kit that he made, which tells me he purposefully put this address inside the back cover of this Corliss Lamont pamphlet. Okay. And let's see here. Now, the way the FBI got their hands on this stuff is because of somebody that we talked about on a previous show. His name was Jesse Core. And he worked at the International Trade Mart. And he was very disturbed about Oswald handing out hands-off Cuba pamphlets and the Corliss Lamont pamphlets. And he collected them. He took copies, and he sent them to the FBI on August. They got them on August 20th. Not sure when he sent them. Let's see.
Right, and remember, folks, a lot of things are happening between the August 9th fracas or the August 6th encounter with Bernier, right, going into Casa Roca. The August 16th, then the court appearance, then the August 16th, another handing out leaflets, which was, filmed by what is it, WDSU, whatever they call it. And then the radio thing, which I believe was on the 21st. I have that information later. But, These are a packed week and a half. A
Yeah,
lot
very
of
interesting week and a half.
Yeah, a lot of things are going on. And again, Oswald does not have a job at this point. Uh, who knows what he's up to? I mean, we kind of know what he's up to, but it's packed. Yeah, sorry.
All right. This is a little repetitive with the envelopes and things, but here's what the front of it looked like: "The Crime Against Cuba" by Corliss Lamont, and it says right here there's a note inside the back cover, and that's referring to the stamp, the rubber stamp. Okay, and he sent all this stuff over to the FBI in New Orleans
Hmm.
again, Jesse Core. Here's some of the inside of the pamphlet. Other basic pamphlets by Corliss Lamont: "The Civil Liberties Crisis," "The Humanist Tradition," "Effects of a Foreign American Policy," "Back to the Bill of Rights," "Challenge to McCarthy," "The Congressional Inquisition," "The Assault on Academic Freedom," "The Right to Travel," "To End Nuclear Bomb Tests," "A Peace Program for the USA," and "My Trip Around the World." They're all 10 cents each. Send your order to Basic Pamphlets in New York. Interesting. And you can get bulk copies. Now, this is a letter going back to May the 5th, 1961. And, well, underneath this is
Okay,
a photo. What?
can I ask you a question? Lamont, is he part of the FPCC, or is he just a communist sympathizer or
He's just a
Marxist, whatever?
he's just a communist sympathizer at times. But I mean, you can see from his other pamphlets, he's kind of a scurrilous, you know, basic rights, freedoms type of guy. No matter what it is. But here we have a letter that goes back to 1961, where we have a guy, okay, who is the Supreme Council of the 33rd degree of the ancient and accepted Scottish Rite of Freemasonry of the state of Louisiana, Grand Orient of New Orleans, and then it has the the latitude of it, and then I guess the time zone or meridian Greenwich, basically the coordinates, which is kind of weird. And that's got the double-headed eagle up here up top with the crown. It's got the Masonic pyramid with the 33. This is all not weird at all, right? I mean, but it's a letter addressed to the Fair Play for Cuba Committee in New York. And it says, "Dear sirs, kindly send me any information and literature, for we would like to learn more about Cuba. Yours truly, George Long, 33rd degree." And you can see his name up here up at the top as well. He must be the HNIC down there at the Grand Orient of New Orleans, 33rd degree Mason. So he wants to learn more about Cuba.
Is 33rd degree a high up ranking in the
It's the
Masons?
highest. It's the
Oh,
highest,
okay.
Joe. So here is a letter from an associate of somebody we're going to be talking more about this evening. And this goes back to April of 62. So this is before Oswald even returns from Russia. And this is, of course, an FBI memorandum with the subject being Fair Play for Cuba. And it says, "William Stuckey of the New Orleans States Item," which is a newspaper, "at 3 p.m. on 4662, telephonically contacted the New Orleans office and asked if we could advise him whether or not there was a chapter of the Fair Play for Cuba, a subversive organization located in New Orleans. He was advised that we could not furnish him any information concerning this, and that he should not draw a conclusion from this that we did or did not have anything concerning this," which is an odd way to answer a pretty simple question. But okay.
Right, but Oswald wasn't even back then, so he
Right.
was the one that supposedly created that chapter, if you will.
Right. But I'm just saying it's a weird way for the FBI to answer such a straightforward question. Like, is there a Fair Play for Cuba Committee chapter in New Orleans? This is coming from a member of the press. And they say, well, we can't tell you, but you shouldn't draw a conclusion from the fact that we can't tell you, because there may or may not be anything concerning it. It's just weird. It's weird to me. I don't know.
Right, right.
All right, so this is interesting. Date 11/23/63. Of course, another FBI document concerning Lee Oswald. An anonymous male telephonically contacted the New York office at 5:11 p.m. This is the day after the assassination, folks, and stated that, quote, he was an old friend of the Bureau, and the following information he was about to supply is against regulations, and that is the reason he will remain anonymous. The anonymous male had in his possession a telegram to a London newspaper offering for sale a tape recording which consists of 37 minutes of interview with Lee Oswald, which contains his outlook on life and his personal history. In telegram, sender claims to be a prize-winning reporter, and the aforementioned material is for sale to the highest bidder. The sender of the telegram is one Bill Stuckey, who resides at 2317 State Street, New Orleans. So yeah, what do you think about this, Joe? This guy's ready to hey, he still has a tape from Oswald, 37 minutes long. He's ready to sell it to the highest bidder, and he's selling telegrams to London newspapers. Yeah, you're muted. Probably can't see you, but you're muted.
Sorry about that. No, I was just going to ask you if that person was Stuckey, Bill Stuckey, who famously interviewed Oswald on the radio, and we were going to get into that later in my segment. But sus, London? I don't know. It sounds like Mockingbird shit 101.
Well, what's weird is, okay, an anonymous male telephonically contacted the New York office and stated that, quote, he was an old friend of the Bureau, and the following information he was about to supply is against regulations, and that is the reason he will remain anonymous. And then, so apparently there's two anonymous males here, okay, that we're talking about. One is the person that contacted the New York office of the Bureau saying he was an old friend, and that the following information he was about to supply is against regulations. And apparently the information he had was that an anonymous male had in his possession a telegram to a London newspaper offering for sale a tape, blah, 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 blah. The sender of the telegram is Bill Stuckey. So there apparently is another anonymous person who is dropping a dime on what Bill Stuckey is doing, which is odd.
Well, any idea if you had to guess who that could have been?
Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe somebody will talk about it a little later.
Okay. I think I agree because I have the same thoughts.
Okay. Moving right along here. Here's an interesting one. This is from April 1960, right after the inception of the Fair Play for Cuba Committee. All right. They're talking about it. And again, this is a CIA memo, folks. And they're sending this memo to the FBI, to Hoover. Attention, Mr. Sam Papich, the Fair Play for Cuba Committee. So the CIA is letting the FBI know about the Fair Play for Cuba Committee. This agency has derogatory information on all individuals listed in the attached advertisement. It is assumed that the Bureau has the same information. This matter is being brought to your attention with the possible thought that violation of the Registration Act or other statutes may be involved. It would be appreciated if this agency can be informed of any action taken for the Deputy Director of Plans. Sincerely, William K. Harvey, Joe.
Wow.
Bill Harvey.
Yeah. Well, that makes
Interested
sense.
in and knowing about and an eyeball on the Fair Play for Cuba Committee going back to 1960.
Right. Which is essentially when they were.
Yeah, their
They,
inception.
yeah.
And here's an old photo. You see back here in the back right, Mr. Kennedy, Cuba is not for sale, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
Yep.
right in front of him is somebody with a Fair Play for Cuba sign,
Yep.
right? I'm not sure what this one says, or something. Real good neighbors.
Don't.
Warship.
Don't
I don't know.
not wasteland. I don't know. I can't tell.
Yeah, I can't really tell, but this is the kind of stuff that's going on. I'm assuming this is like New York or somewhere, Chicago. So now we get to a guy named Richard Thomas Gibson.
Yes. Who I don't know much about, so I'm very interested in hearing about this, Rob.
Yes. Well, let's just say I think he was second in charge of the Fair Play for Cuba Committee for a number of years, and very involved, and then all of a sudden decides to up and move to Sweden. Okay. It says, if deemed advisable, the Bureau is requested through liaison to determine if the subject was interviewed by the CIA and if he is working for the CIA at the present time. Now, they're talking about Richard Thomas Gibson. Now, the
Right.
FBI is basically asking the CIA, hey, is this guy working for you? Because right here in the third paragraph, it says, in view of the above, it appears possible the subject may have been contacted by CIA and may be, in fact, working for the CIA. Okay.
Right. And they kind of say, well, we don't know. We'll check. Right.
Well, they say right here in brackets, Austin Horn, CIA, advised that his agency did not contact subject and doesn't plan to do so. But that's a lie.
That's ambiguous, right? Like, he could have contacted them.
That's a lie. And we'll find out more about that a little later. So, I mean, they're keeping an eye on these guys for sure. CIA has no objection to the Bureau talking to Rice or Haggart and indicated they'd be willing to contact Gibson in New York and arrange a meeting with him in Montreal if the Bureau so desires. Blah, 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 blah. Dick. Signed Dick. Old Dick Gibson. They're just talking about setting up a meeting with him in Montreal for some reason. I don't know why. I guess they don't want to do it in New York.
Mm-hmm.
But, yeah, this file is just about cooked.
So Gibson was like kind of number 2 in the FPCC,
Yes.
or like one of the executives, for
Yeah,
lack of
he
a
was
better
like the
term.
vice president or something along those lines. And there's a story, a very interesting story in Oswald and the CIA by John Newman about Richard Gibson and June Cobb. Apparently, he met with June Cobb in Cuba, and it said they drank 3/4 of a bottle of scotch together, and he was trying to bang June Cobb.
Respect.
She's pretending to be a reporter, The CIA is in the next room. They have that room wired for sound. They're listening to the whole conversation. So she's basically honeypotting Richard Gibson.
Right.
And
Right.
he's
Right.
just talking, buddy.
Yapping like six barbers, as we
Yeah.
like to
He's
say.
trying to stab that thing, and she doesn't let him. And finally, she's like, "You got to go, dude." Um,
Uh,
yeah, very interesting stuff there. Good Lord. All right. Let me pull this one up. Okay. All right. Now, this is a United States Secret Service document, which you don't run into many of these out there, but this is from November 26, 1963. In New York, an investigation by Special Agent Joseph Murphy. So they detail their investigation of the Fair Play Cuba Committee in New York City. Special Agent Kennedy at the New York office, federal FBI, was interviewed with respect to the Fair Play for Cuba Committee and Lee Harvey Oswald. He stated that the FPCC is on a national basis, has little activity. Agent Kennedy further stated that the Communist Party and the Socialist Workers' Party attempted to gain control of the FPCC, but were alienated by its head, Vincent Theodore Lee. That's VT Lee.
right.
And no longer have a strong affiliation with the FPCC. All right, the president, as of April 63, the John Rawson was the president. He was
Okay.
also the chairman of the Chicago chapter and is inactive on a national basis. Now, the vice president is Richard Big Dick Gibson, who currently lives in Lausanne, Switzerland. He is a writer and works for a new publication entitled Africa, Latin America, Asia Revolution. And they give his address there. So, again, Richard Gibson bounces from America to Switzerland, the old, good, neutral Switzerland.
Right. He's going on a lamb.
Yeah, he's getting out of Dodge, as they say.
Yes.
A report from the New Orleans field office of the FBI submitted on October 25th, 63, states that the office received information on August 9th that Lee Harvey Oswald had been arrested that date for disturbing the peace. He was handing out handbills for the Fair Play for Cuba Committee, yada, yada, yada. No mention of A.J. Heidel. And then on August 21st, Oswald was a guest on the radio program in New Orleans and engaged in a debate against two anti-Castro persons. At this time, Oswald denied that the Fair Play for Cuba Committee was communist-controlled. However, he admitted he was a Marxist. Right? So they go on and give the old spiel.
Right. The summary. Yeah.
Yeah. So Detective Frank Bianco of Bureau of Special Services, New York City Police Department, was interviewed with regard to the Fair Play for Cuba Committee, and he stated that the FPCC was founded in 1960, reached its peak of strength in 61 and 62, and there were about 20 meetings held in New York by the Fair Play for Cuba Committee in each of these years. In 1963, however, the organization held not more than 3 meetings in New York with an attendance ranging from 85 to 150 people. The organization is currently classified as relatively inactive.
And you know what, Rob? I was going to say that. Like, when we talk about these alleged anti operations or operations against the FPCC, like, how relevant were they really?
Not really in 63. Like in the summer, they were still, I think, hanging on by a thread. But by the end of 63, as we'll get to here in a second, you'll see that it was pretty much Dunsky. Especially after the connection with Oswald, after the
Right.
assassination, they were done.
You took the words out of my mouth. I was going to say how much did the Oswald connection have to do with the folding of that? Even though it was probably on the downturn since 61, 62, right?
Yeah. Now these are a list of some people that have been alleged to be still actively connected with the Fair Play for Cuba Committee. Marjorie Speece, and she is alleged to have lived with V.T. Lee, if you know what I'm saying, as recently as August 1962.
Gumar, okay.
Yeah, side piece,
Yeah,
maybe main piece, who knows?
who knows?
William Worthy Jr., a brother residing in Baltimore in several left wing groups. He is a writer in the bulletins of the FPCC and was arrested in July 62 for illegal entry into the United States after defying the United States State Department on travel to Cuba. He said, "Fuck yeah, I'm going anyway." Worthy is a foreign correspondent of a Baltimore newspaper entitled The Afro American, Joe.
Yes.
Berta Green, aka Berta Suckoff.
There's a joke there in there somewhere, but
Yeah,
we won't go there.
we'll let you make your own up,
Yeah.
right? And her husband, Morris Suckoff, apparently had a party for Fidel Castro at the Hotel Teresa in September of 1960 and demonstrated at the UN, conducted by the FPCC, probably part of the picture we saw earlier in New York City. Let's see. Waldo Frank, an honorary co-chairman of the FPCC and a writer on Latin American affairs. He was a speaker at a meeting at Carnegie Hall in New York City by the Committee to Secure Justice for Martin Sobel. In April of 1960, he was chairman of an FPCC meeting held at the Community Church in New York City, at which he was the principal speaker. Numerous references to Waldo Frank appear in the Daily Worker, which, of course, was a newspaper that Oswald subscribed to. Robert Tabor. This is a name. He's the editor of Fair Play, a publication of the Fair Play for Cuba Committee. He was on the guest list at the reception held for Fidel Castro at the Hotel Teresa. Also, at one time, the head of the Fair Play for Cuba Committee. And a bunch of people you never heard of before, of course.
I thought that was G. Ray Gill, but it was G. Wright Hill.
So now they're looking into August 30th, 1962. Vincent Theodore Lee had purchased numerous small arms, including an Enfield Deluxe Bolt Action 303 rifle. This weapon was manufactured by the Golden State Arms Corporation. They even have the serial number. Lee was also heard to state that he owns a German Luger, a German P-38 automatic, automatics of unknown origin, and a .38 calibre Ivor Johnson.
And we are talking about V.T. Lee, not
Yes,
of
we
course,
are talking about V.T. Lee.
not Lee Harvey Oswald. Just to clarify. Okay.
Lee was in possession of these weapons while he was in Florida, but it has not been established that he transported them to New York, nor has his purpose for obtaining the weapons been determined. But he liked his guns, Joe. Old V.T. Lee for Shorzy.
Can't blame him for that.
No. Can't blame the man for trying. All right.
It's not like he's starting a revolution or anything. So,
Well, allegedly.
allegedly.
All right, let's bounce back here. This is an FBI document. Note to date, 11/29/63. No information regarding the channelization of funds from the Cuban government to the FPCC has been developed subsequent to the reference report. What they're worried about here is direct funding from Castro to the Fair Play for Cuba Committee to Lee Harvey Oswald. This is what they're trying to rule out here, okay?
Mm-hmm. I don't think Castro would be very interested in funding these skafuzas. I mean, I don't know. Maybe
He did initially.
yeah. But to the tune of how much? I don't know.
Well, I just told you, $15,000.
Oh, okay, that was that.
Yeah.
Right, but he probably washed his hands after that. And was like, "That's all I'm going to do." I'm not sure how involved he was in the FPCC, but I honestly don't know.
Well, what do they call it when you give a company money to a startup business?
Kind of like capital investment. I don't know.
I don't know. You're the fintech guy, and you don't even know. But
Capital.
no,
It,
there's a name for it. Money you give a startup to get off the ground. Anyway, that's basically what Castro did, because again, this company or this entity was designed to be dispersed between numerous amount of cities, even countries. They had chapters in different countries, all the major cities, just about in the United States. And these committees were set up, to charge memberships fees, to charge fees for uh, paraphernalia, pamphlets, handouts, all of that stuff.
yeah, maybe it's seed money.
Yep, there you go. Thank you, MK. That's exactly what I was talking about.
Okay.
Yes.
At venture capital, someone else said, Toops said, but I don't think venture capital. I don't think that was a term back
Yeah,
then.
I was thinking about seed money. Yeah.
Okay, seed money, right?
Yes. Yes. And not that kind of seed, folks, you dirty minded people. That comes from David Ferry. Nothing? Joe?
No, I just wasn't gonna go there.
Okay, here we go. Now, again, this is at the end of November 1963. They're looking into the Fair Play for Cuba Committee hard. Okay. So they got their eyeball on Vincent Theodore Lee. He is the only functioning officer of the Fair Play for Cuba Committee at this time, and he intends to resign, Joe, by 12/1/63. I wonder why.
Convenient.
Yeah, you think? Albert Baker of New York City, who appears to sympathize with the Communist Party, reportedly to replace Lee as the chief officer of the FPCC. So, what happened at some point, Joe, in 1963? The founder goes AWOL, the president goes AWOL, the vice president goes AWOL, or stops taking his calls and letters. You have the other guy, Big Dick Gibson, going to
Sweden
Switzerland.
or, or
So
whatever.
basically, Vincent Theodore Lee is the only man left standing, and he's like the national secretary or whatever. But now he's functioning as the president, because he's the only one left that's actually involved in doing anything.
Right, and running things.
Yeah, and running things. Yeah.
Operations, right.
So, in April of '63, Lee stated that the Fair Play for Cuba Committee had about 1,500 members, company wide or committee wide.
Which is not that much.
Not that much when you're in all these major cities and countries all throughout the world. I mean, the world's a big place.
Right. 1,500 is like nothing.
Nothing. So during October of '63, this is, of course, pre-assassination, Lee described the FPCC financial situation as very poor, and an informant advised that FPCC bank balance as of October 24th, 1963, was now down to a measly, paltry $173.52.
Stop it.
I'm reading.
I know, but that's like, you know,
Yeah, they went from $15,000 seed
right.
money, not to mention the money they raised from selling memberships and paraphernalia and pamphlets and all that stuff, to 3 years later, pissed all the way through it down to $173.52.
Right. To about like a grand, a little more.
Yeah, they go from 150,000 to 1,000
Right.
in today's money, which is pretty bad.
Yeah. Maybe why some of them just tuck-tailed and ran.
Yeah, they probably took most of the seed money and said, "See ya."
Right. Another grift. We always
Yeah.
talk about that.
Lee stated that the FPCC exists to get the absolute truth of the Great Cuban Revolution out to the American people, and that the FPCC supports the renewal of diplomatic relations with Cuba and has called upon the administration to I don't know what that word is. Rescind, the U.S. ban on travel to Cuba. In September of 1963, Lee described the Fair Play for Cuba Committee as the largest distributor of Cuban propaganda in the U.S., if not the world, excluding the Cuban government. On June 24th, Lee received 3 packages from the Cuban mission to the UN. In May of 1963, an informant advised that FPCC leadership had minimized the role of the Communist Party and the SWP during the past year and that the influence of outside organizations was then negligible.
Okay. Can I ask a question here?
Yeah.
Lee received 3 packages from the Cuban mission to the UN. Is that not FPCC? It's different?
Right. That's basically coming from Castro.
Okay.
Lee advised that arrangements for the Communist Party to take over the FPCC had not materialized at all. For whatever reason, FPCC office equipment was entirely up to him. He stated that John Rosen, an officer, had not answered any of his letters, and that Richard Gibson, another officer, was unavailable, but that's because he's out of the country.
He's on a European vacation, yes.
Yeah, so Lee stated that he, therefore, believed that he could do whatever he wanted to with the organization. Interesting.
Weird.
So he basically involuntarily inherited the Fair Play for Cuba Committee.
Right, but are they trying to like sell off assets like copiers or whatever the hell?
Oh, yeah. They had an office they had to rent in New York City,
Right, which is of course not cheap.
right? Plus, VT Lee, as we'll see here in a minute, was taking a salary, which is interesting, but we'll get there, I promise. Let's see. Again, they got informants
Everywhere.
everywhere. So I got one more set of documents where we'll see just a little more. Now, what's interesting about VT Lee, his salary, Joe, was $170 a week. All right, you're the financial guy here.
Okay, so that's like, what, like $3,400 a month in today's terms?
Well, I want to put it more to an hourly rate.
Okay.
So, $170 a week. Can we figure out an hourly rate for that?
Oh, I was thinking bi-weekly. So 1734, 60, 70, like about 8 grand a month.
Not a monthly salary, an hourly rate. If you break it down by what this motherfucker was making an hour, a week, 170 divided by 40.
Mm-hmm.
That's the question. 170 divided by 40. What's that equal?
$42 an hour, I guess. Wait, did I do the math wrong?
Yeah. FinTech Joe over here.
Yeah, right. 170 divided by what?
40.
By 40 hours?
Yeah.
That's about $4 an hour? Yeah, it is. Allegedly.
Allegedly. Now contrast that by the fact that Oswald was making $1.25 an hour at the school book depository.
Right. Which is
So
kind of equivalent to minimum wage, if you will.
right. So VT Lee wasn't doing very bad in his position with the Fair Play for Cuba committee. I mean, he had an office, he had a nice salary, but eventually it just got left to him, and the money started to run out, and that's when he was like, "All right, time to go." Especially after all this Oswald nonsense, bad publicity, and all that shit,
Right.
having to deal with the feds and everything else. He's probably like, "All right, I'm done. I'm done ski. Dunzo."
Yeah.
So here we have
Don't blame them.
an interesting look at.
Everyone else had tuck-tailed and ran by that point anyway, right? So he's like, why am I going to stay around to deal with this shit?
All right, so this is dated August 16th, which is when Oswald was handing out these pamphlets in front of the Trade Mart. Okay, Joe?
Yep, 16.
Now, this is a New Orleans Police Department report. The complainant is a guy by the name of Hernandez, Joe. Ramon Hernandez, to be exact, who lives on Eden Street, New Orleans. Okay. Address of the subject care of as well. They have Fair Play for Cuba Committee because this is stamped on the pamphlets, right? L.H. Oswald, 4907 Magazine Street. And violation of the Registration Act, okay, is the complaint. Now, whoever this guy, Ramon Hernandez, is, again, back then there was two races, white and black,
All right.
or white and Negro, or whatever they called it back then. But even Latinos, like Ramon Hernandez, was considered white. All right, and this is a young guy, 23 years old, male, 5'10", 175, brown hair, brown eyes, shocker, medium build, medium complexion, born in Havana, Cuba in 1940. All right, so we have ourselves a Cuban exile here,
Right.
complaining to the New Orleans Police Department about a violation of the Registration Act concerning the Fair Play for Cuba Committee and Lee Oswald. Okay, so this guy knows his laws. Okay, to specifically talk about violating the Registration Act. He is currently a student at Loyola in accounting, evening division. He is employed by Spilsbury, Sidney J. At Perdido. There's the phone number. Complaint brought in a handout being distributed in front of the Trade Mart, Camp Street, by 5 white males, 18 to 20 years in age, wearing shorts. Okay, so real quick, Joe. Why in the Warren report do we have only that Oswald and 2 other people were handing out these pamphlets, but this guy is saying there was at least 5 to 6 of them, and they were all wearing shorts, like they were all dressed alike?
Well, my best guess would be to protect their identities.
Right. We get Charles Steele, who was one of them, and I forget who the other guy was, but I believe he was from a Latin extraction. But Charles Steele was a white guy, right?
Yeah.
So it's interesting that this person is saying that there was 5 or 6 people handing out these pamphlets in front of the Trade Mart on Camp Street. The complainant stated that the 5 appear to be college students and Americans. Handout stated in part, "Hands off Cuba, join the Fair Play for Cuba Committee." Hernandez stated that he was imprisoned in Cuba for anti-Castro feelings. So obviously he's going to have a little bit of an attitude about this, Joe. Don't you think?
Yeah.
Now tell me if this next little bit sounds a little familiar to you.
Okay.
He volunteered to attend lectures and obtain literature as stated on the handout at L.H. Oswald, 4907 Magazine Street, New Orleans. Hernandez was advised that this office would not advise or direct him in this matter, and any action taken by him was of his own choice and responsibility. So, now, if you remember, Joe, Carlos Quiroga, okay, went to this address, met with Lee Oswald concerning joining the Fair Play for Cuba Committee as kind of an undercover agent type deal.
Right, sent by Brignier. Right?
Sent by Brignier, but Brignier also asked the FBI, "Hey, I got a guy we're going to send to infiltrate the Fair Play for Cuba Committee," and they told him the same thing. "Look, you do what you want, but we ain't a part of it." Which is odd to me because the FBI, at least on a national level, was very interested in the Fair Play for Cuba Committee. Maybe not so much by this date, 1963, but in the early 60s, they were definitely COINTELPRO-ing the shit out of this organization, right? Sending in undercover folks, getting people to inform on what the committee was doing. They knew who all the officers were. They knew where they lived. They knew all kinds of stuff about the members, what they were all about. But by this date, it kind of seems to me like the FBI is like, who cares? We're not telling you to do it. We don't want your information. Go F off.
Right. And you talk about how irrelevant they were at that point, maybe. You kind of wonder why, other than Lee Oswald's alleged participation in it, would be of any interest.
Yeah. And what's also interesting to me is this name here, Hernandez, Joe. That somebody named Hernandez has been linked to Oswald in New Orleans, in Texas. Supposedly he was with somebody named Hernandez when he visited Robert McCown, Castro's personal gun runner. And again in New Orleans, he was accused of being around somebody named Hernandez at the Havana bar and things of this nature. So that, and of course that last name is not, by any means a unique Latino last name.
Right.
But it's interesting that this name pops up again. So maybe you could ask yourself, well, maybe this guy did go talk to Oswald kind of undercover, right?
Like a second attempt.
And well, maybe he got in Oswald's ear about some things and was used by the folks, the former CRC members in New Orleans, these anti-Castro Cuban exiles, to set him up for all this shit.
Mm-hmm.
Just a thought.
Yeah.
Just a thought.
Not a bad one.
Something to keep in the back of your brains. But yeah, that's all I got on the Fair Play for Cuba Committee. Of course, we'll get into a ton more in part 2. With Harry Dean and all of that. But you could see immediately after the assassination, they were setting out to make sure that Castro could not be tied directly to Oswald through the Fair Play for Cuba Committee. So that's what they were trying to do. And again, at this point in time, the Fair Play for Cuba Committee was dying on the vine.
Right.
V.T. Lee had already planned on being done with it at the beginning of November. The process just got accelerated, of course, after Oswald
Right. That was the last straw.
and his affiliation with the Fair Play for Cuba Committee.
Right.
Um, so that pretty much stamped out the organization as a whole, kaput, Dunsky type of thing. So I don't know. I just thought it was interesting, to see the other side of things,
Right.
about exactly what this Fair Play for Cuba Committee was created to do, what their insight was, their reach, who's running it, type of thing. And to touch on to go back to Big Dick Gibson and the CIA's denial of affiliation. Well, he would go on to be not necessarily an agent or whatever, an official CIA agent, but he was definitely used as an asset.
Or informant, right?
Yeah, in the mid '60s, moving forward, he had very deep roots in Africa. I believe he met with Patrice Lumumba.
Really?
Yeah, so he had met with Lumumba and Castro, and that just happened to be two of the people that the CIA were trying to kill. Okay, to replace their regimes, which is odd. Uh, but yeah, it's he's an interesting character, and I think hell, maybe even Doug might have a little more on him in the morning on Quick Hits. But what I saw came out of John Newman's book, Oswald and the CIA. Very interesting information. Like I said, he was caught by the CIA trying to wine and dine in '69 June Cobb in a hotel room and get her drunk. But she got him drunk and he started talking. And then she booted him out. The CIA recorded the whole conversation. Yeah, very interesting stuff.
Yeah, I mean, listen, these are my thoughts. I think there was definitely operations against the FPCC. I think might be overstated in the 63 years that this has happened, right? I'm not sure how much of a factor they were. And as we're going to get to, and I'm going to play some parts, or maybe Rob is, from the radio interview when Oswald talks about the FPCC, doesn't sound extremely radical. It sounds like, progressive, little part of,
Look, they weren't a violent organization. They were more of a protesting organization, like a loose collection of people that you could pull together and throw a protest in front of the UN or whatever's going on type of thing.
leaflets, whatever.
Yeah, hand out some leaflets, a propaganda tool, for the Cuban government. At the most, that's what they were. And when you're trying to impress upon a nation as big as the United States, the good points of a communist country in the middle of the Cold War who's in bed with the Russians 90 miles off your shore, good luck. You might get some weirdos to join up and be a part of your cause, or some people with money who for whatever reason figure they can finagle a grift out of this whole thing.
Right. And we're talking about 1,500 people.
Worldwide.
Worldwide. That is not that significant. And even the $150,000 adjusted for inflation isn't that much when you think about the millions and the billions and whatever the hell we do these days, right? It's not like that significant. Okay, they're going to print some flyers, whatever. And I'm not defending them or Castro or anything, but I'm just saying it seems like their efforts were overstated. And I think you said something like FBI was like, yeah, whatever, like, we don't really care. But the CIA was like very focused on this.
Well, they were, yeah. Well, they were focused in part on some of the individuals affiliated with it
Yeah.
and watching them and what they were doing because you had some of these folks, like I said, in Cuba meeting with Castro, and guys like Richard Gibson, they had their eye on. Obviously, they had June Cobb on him, questioning him and getting him drunk in a hotel room to get information out of him. And you got him meeting with Castro and Lumumba prior to the Lumumba's actual assassination. And of course, you know, Castro was on the list. They never got to him, but they wanted to, allegedly. So he was definitely somebody that they were keeping their eye on for sure.
Right. And it would make sense that they would, but I don't know. I feel like a lot of the JFK assassination community overhypes the significance of the FPCC, and it's mainly because of Oswald. And we're going to hear what he says about it in a couple minutes. So I get it, but don't you have better things to do?
Yeah, especially when it's a bunch of white people, getting together, and because it's not like the Fair Play for Cuba committee was being run by Cubans. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's not many there's not very many Castro sympathizers that came to America. You know what I mean?
Right. I'm guessing Gibson was not Cuban either, right?
No, he was American,
All right. So you have Gibson, Steele, not American. V.T. Lee,
not American.
not
Well, he
American.
was American, not Cuban.
Not Cuban. Okay, there you
Yeah.
go. You know what I mean? It's weird.
I look, I get it. You want kumbaya and shit, and fair trade and the blockades to end. People want to travel to Cuba. You know, people want their cigars. People want to go there to gamble. People want to go there to have a good time with some Cuban hookers, probably. Uh, that type of thing. Lots of beaches. Because it was a fairly popular destination vacation spot before Castro took over and kind of
Right?
got
Yeah.
rid of the casinos and
Yeah.
just took basically all the revenue away from the country and put it in his own pocket.
Right. Right. And I just want to highlight this comment by Boombada. Gibson said to Cobb, I don't know if this is true,
It is true.
on the telephone the day after, okay, thank you, after his visit, I'm always awkward around pretty girls, which June Cobb definitely was. Yeah. And Cobb filed this remark on October 1960. So this must have been just at the very beginning of the FPCC.
Yeah, I believe it started in April of 1960, so by November. Yeah.
Yeah. I think Gibson missed an opportunity to smash.
Well,
I would have.
he tried. June Cobb missed the opportunity to smash. Big
Well, she didn't want to. That wasn't her objective.
He could not get in them draws, Joseph, as they say.
Yes.
All right. Let's talk a little bit about some other sus folks in New Orleans, if you will, other than Oswald.
Yes. Let's talk a little bit about Mr. Ed Butler, and then we're going to get into a couple timestamps of when he was on the radio show with Stuckey and I believe Bernier, although that might have been the video. So if you want to share this, Rob, I'm just going to read a little summary from Spartacus about Edward Scannell Butler.
Okay, Paul Blow, go ahead.
Scannell.
Read us some 20-year-old out-of-date information. Go ahead.
Well, that's just a good summary of who he was. Edward Butler was born in New Orleans, 1934. He went to the Army Management School, 57 to 59 at Fort Belvoir, Virginia. After completing the course, he was employed as an account executive with Brown, Friedman and Company, an advertising firm. Butler became friendly with your boy Clay Shaw and Lloyd Cobb of the International Trade Mart and persuaded these men to help fund his anti-communist campaigns. This included the establishment of two organizations, the Free Voice of Latin America, FVLA, and the American Institute of Freedom Project, AIFP. Butler employed former FBI agent Guy Bannister to work for the AIFP, allegedly. But he was friends with a lot of big swing dicks in New Orleans, Robert, including Alton Ochsner, and apparently got some financial help from Clint Murchison, who helped establish the Inca, which of course is the Information Council of the Americas, which he helped co-found. Butler in April 60. Hold on, let me just skip some of the filler here. So the Fair Play for Cuba Fair Play for Cuba Committee, Inca, was founded on May 15th, 1961 by public relations professional Edward Butler. From the beginning, its agenda was narrowly focused on communism as an issue. Inca, in fact, sought support from liberal as well as conservative anti-communists, asking liberal and anti-communist people to speak at functions. Ed Butler had, prior to the Castro takeover, laid plans for an anti-communist organization, but when Castro took over in Cuba and New Orleans, expressed growing anxiety over the new Latin dictator. He was only 27 at the time of this. The public relations man, Butler, was handed a searing issue in an alarmed constituency. And Butler had an interest in both public relations and psychology. And this is going to become relevant because some say he engaged in propaganda, and I tend to believe it. So in a real sense, his organization was not ideologically based, even though his public relations man said so. Let's see. Along with Ed Butler, the most important member of Inca was famed physician Dr. Alton Ochsner. So like I said, he's hanging out with the BSDs. 38 years Butler Sr. formed a partnership with his younger colleague, which would last 20 years. Ed Butler, who didn't have a great knowledge of Latin American affairs, benefited substantially from the association with the celebrated doctor. Again, maybe another grift here. We got going. Alton Ochsner had a international outlook, blah, blah, blah. Inca continued until 1981, which is 20 years, I believe, from 61 to 81. Its final demise attributed to the death of Dr. Alton Ochsner that year. Then Ochsner's son, Ochsner Jr., go figure, helped start another organization similar to Inca. The Caribbean Commission was formed in 1982, and several influential New Orleans, while Inca directed its energies on the Cuban Revolution, the Caribbean Council focused on Nicaragua. So very interesting. Let me finish a couple pages of PowerPoint um, before we go into the audio, which you should have on the private chat, and I have the timestamps. Um, I don't know. Listen, I'm not saying it's just a summary.
Okay, Paul.
Okay, Paul's my middle name.
That's not what I'm referencing.
I know what you're referencing.
Let's not be like Paul.
Yes. Um, can you put back out the PowerPoint for a sec?
Well, I'm getting tired of looking at that picture.
Okay, I have a couple more.
I can only look at Carlos Bernier for so long. Well, it appears Joe froze, and we lost him.
So these are, and Rob.
Hold on, you were frozen there, Chief.
All right, I know. It happens when I bring up my PowerPoint sometimes. These are some of the documents that I scanned while at NARA. Maybe they're available, maybe they're not. There's like a few hundred on Butler, on the Ed, or on the Mary Farrell. But
Please ignore any of Joe's body parts that may be included in these scans.
well, I included some just for your pleasure. Office of Security has, and this is 65, so we're talking about 2 years after, has coordinated this case with the components having prior interest. There is no objection to CD/OO use of subject. Um, this is going to be fucking hard to read here. This is on October 1st, 1965. Uh, in August 65, Edward Scannell Butler of the Inca. Uh, so he's making a movie here of a motion picture. It's called Hitler in Havana. And it's available to us as soon as other prints were made. Upon receipt of your memorandum, we contacted someone, and I determined that both 16 and something millimeter prints are now at the hand of Inca headquarters, and that we will ship uh, the things to you. This is a CI document. We have an appointment to call Mr. Butler on October 4th, 65, at which he will I don't know, tell us about this shit. Maybe send us an advance copy. I'm sorry, my scanning, first day scanning. What do you want from me? This is another CIA document in the 1970. Interesting here. I had never had the occasion to brief Mr. Butler except on the mission of the Domestic Contact Service. But let's get a little clearer thing here. While Mr. Butler was Executive Vice President and Staff Director at Inca, he was an excellent source of intelligence information on the locations, equipment, and personnel of certain broadcasting, radio, and TV stations in Latin America. He was later made Vice President for Mass Communication of Inca and was granted a leave of absence to pursue certain matters of concern to Inca and to himself, during which he moved to West Los Angeles to reside. He still maintains contact with Inca, blah, blah, blah. After he took up residence in LA, Butler established his own public relations firm, Scannell Associates. Oh, what do we got here?
Double B gifted 5 memberships.
Oh, thank you.
Congratulations, South to West. Stephen Dodd. Chris Called. Carl Ellis. And the Apex. Congratulations, folks.
Good.
Thank you
I
for
was
advising.
hoping you weren't going to say my name.
Thank you, Brandon. Much
Thank
appreciated.
you, sir. He currently has a weekly TV program entitled The Square World of Ed Butler. So he's now going on TV, he's writing books, he's making movies. So listen, dude is obviously involved in propaganda. I don't think that's up for debate, right? Butler is a very cooperative contact and has always welcomed an opportunity to assist the CIA.
Of course.
And of course, this is a couple of years after the assassination, but you can imagine, his ties go way back.
Yeah, they didn't start after the assassination.
Right. Mr. Butler is a very cooperative source and seems to understand the intelligence collection function and to welcome any opportunity to assist the CIA. He is intelligent, animated, articulate, outgoing individual. His only fault, which may hinder his association, again, which may hinder my association, but which can of course be circumvented in his laziness and tendency to procrastinate. What
Big
do we
Trey
got?
came through.
Oh,
It's your birthday. Thank you, Trey.
thank you, Trey. Appreciate it, buddy.
Hell yeah.
Um,
Shreveport strong.
Butler, yes, yes. Butler is aware of the sensitivity of agency activities and is appropriately discreet. He is cleared for the use of secret material as of 65, which of course, you know, CIA and their dates, I don't trust them, obviously. Since another component of the agency apparently had or still had an interest in using him in its operations, the Office of Security, which again, it's BSDs of the CIA, checked with that component and determined that there was no objection to domestic contact service use of Mr. Butler on a continuing basis in the future. Inca is primarily concerned with the preparation and dissemination of taped recordings of anti-communist material written or edited by Mr. Butler to a selected group of broadcasting stations in Latin America, North America, for use as a weapon against communist penetration in the Americas. Translation: propaganda.
Yes.
These tapes are called the truth tapes, and Mr. Butler is the officer charged with their preparation and distribution and field. In this effort, he is assisted by his wife from 1 to 4 other paid employees. So what is that?
I just thought of a great T-shirt, though.
Yeah, what's that?
Penetration by propaganda.
Who are you going to put on the image?
Oh, me, of course. Allegedly.
Yeah. So, interesting thing that Mr. Gaddison was asking Mr. Beckham about was Ed Frequent was a frequent visitor to Mr. Bannister. You don't recall meeting him? I might have, but I don't recall. I don't know unless I see a picture of him. Can you recall if you ever met Lee Harvey Oswald? No, I never met the guy, blah, blah, blah. But, so Ed Butler is running around with Oshner, allegedly Clay Shaw and Guy Bannister in New Orleans, and he's a three-generation wealthy New Orleans person. You know what I mean? So, and of course, his appearance on, you can take that down now, Rob. His appearance on the radio and the video with debate with Lee Harvey Oswald is very intriguing, because it's like, why are you going to include this scafuza in this debate, right? It, in theory, should be against Butler. I mean, you have Stuckey kind of like moderating, right? At least in the radio one. You have Bernier, and you can have Oswald. Why do you need to have Ed Butler there? I don't know. Well, propaganda is my guess.
He knows it all.
He knows it all. He's
got
gonna.
the goods on
Yeah.
Oswald.
Well, the thing is that, you know, I listened to this whole interview, and even though Oswald was like trapped, or they tried to trap him at every point, he just holds his own. He really does. So why don't we, on that segue there, bring up some of this interview, and you could start at 1 minute, Rob, into it. And it is
Uno momento.
uno momento into cuatro momentos.
Okay.
We have with us a representative of probably the most controversial organization connected with Cuba in this country. The organization, the Fair Play for Cuba Committee. The person, Lee Oswald, Secretary of the New Orleans Chapter to the Fair Play for Cuba Committee. This organization has long been on the Justice Department's blacklist and is a group which is generally considered to be the leading pro-Castro body in the nation. As a reporter of Latin American affairs in this city for several years now, your columnist has kept a lookout for local representatives of this pro-Castro group. None appeared in public view until this week, when young Lee Oswald was arrested and convicted for disturbing the peace. He was arrested while passing out pro-Castro literature to a crowd which included several violently anti-Castro Cuban refugees. When we finally tracked Mr. Oswald down today and asked him to participate in Latin listening posts, he told us frankly that he would because it may help his organization attract more members in this area. With that in mind, and knowing that Mr. Oswald must have had to demonstrate a great skill in dialectics before he was entrusted with his present post, we now proceed on the course of random questioning of Mr. Oswald. Mr. Oswald, if I may, how long has the Fair Play for Cuba Committee had an organization in New Orleans?
We have had members in this area for several months now. Up until about 2 months ago, however, we have not organized our members into any sort of an active group. Until, as you say, this week, we have decided to feel out the public what they think of our organization, our aims. And for that purpose, we have been, as you say, distributing literature on the street for the purpose of trying to attract new members and feel out the public.
Do you have any other activities other than distributing literature at the present time?
Well, I assume you mean, do I have any organizational duties myself?
Yes.
Yes, as secretary, I am responsible for the keeping of records and the protection of the members' names so that undue publicity or attention will not be drawn to them if they do not desire it. My duties are as the duties of a secretary of any organization. Now, our organization has a president, a secretary, and a treasurer. The duties of those people would be more or less self-evident. Those then are my duties. I do not, however, belong to any other organization at all.
Are you at liberty to reveal the membership of your organization?
No, I'm not.
For what reason?
Well, as secretary, I believe it's standard operating procedure that an organization consisting of a political minority protect the names and addresses of its members, and my duty, and I have every reason to do that.
Mr. Oswald, there are many commentators in the journalistic field in this country that equate the Fair Play for Cuba Committee with the American Communist Party. What's your feeling about this, and are you a member of the American Communist Party?
Well, the
There's your timestamp, Joe.
Where are we? At 4 minutes?
Yeah.
Okay. Go to 2040. 20 minutes, 40 seconds.
Play for Cuba Committee have any opinion about the suppression of democratic liberties in Hungary in 1956 or the poverty in any of the Eastern Bloc countries today?
officially no, but of course we have our own opinions about such situation. We consider that Russian imperialism is a very bad thing. It was a bad thing in Hungary. We certainly do not support dictatorship or the suppression of any peoples anywhere. But as I say, and as I must stress, we are preoccupied only with the problem of Cuba officially.
We'll return for more questions after this message.
Comes back in a second.
Mr. Oswald, you have the title of Secretary of the New Orleans chapter of the Fair Play for Cuba Committee. However, you've just said that you've never been to Latin America except for a few ventures into Mexico. In that case, just exactly how do you get your information concerning Latin American affairs or Latin American conditions?
Well, as I say, we are preoccupied with the problem of Cuba. There are correspondents, people who correspond with the headquarters in New York from Cuba, directly from Cuba. That is where they get their information about Cuba. Now, in regards to Latin and Central America, you do not have to be you do not have to have your own correspondent there. The AP and the UP cover it very well, and they certainly give a very clear picture of the situation in certain countries. Nicaragua and so forth, as I mentioned, which have very undemocratic regimes, dictatorships. And as I say, these things are well known by everyone, and they accepted it as truth. For instance, you will not be able to find any official or any person who knows about Latin America who will say that Nicaragua does not have a dictatorship.
Very interesting that you should mention dictatorships in Nicaragua, because we naturally, from reading your press, have heard about these dictatorships for many, many years. But it's curious to me as to why no Nicaraguans fled to the United States last year, whereas we had possibly 50 to 60,000 Cubans fleeing from Cuba to the United States. So what is the Fair Play for Cuba?
As you can see, very composed, very, I guess, self-taught on geopolitical matters, and whether it's Hungary, and he even disavows the Soviet Union and some of what they were up to. You know what I mean? Doesn't sound like a radical to me.
No.
30? No,
But I mean,
go ahead.
He's talking out of both sides of his mouth here, really. I mean, he's disparaging these countries with dictatorships, but he's supporting Cuba, who has an obvious dictatorship, and not just a one-way dictatorship. You know, I mean, communist dictatorship.
Yes.
That's a little odd to me. You know, that he wants to down all these other countries for being dictatorships, but he's supporting Castro and his dictatorship in Cuba.
Yes, and I believe we talked about this in the past. He went to Russia. He was interested in Marxism, allegedly. He was then very put off by their system of socialism, communism, Marxism, whatever you want to call it. And maybe he put his hopes in Cuba, and it might be in one of these next timestamps. Go to 3140 seconds. He talks about how the United States, and he actually mentions Dulles, which is interesting, how they kind of pushed Castro towards
with my family.
Sorry.
no, to having to, like, you know, ally with the Soviet Union?
Family, with my wife and my child.
What particular event in your life made you decide that the Fair Play for Cuba Committee had the correct answers about Cuban-U.S. relations?
Well, of course, Americans in general have only begun to notice Cuba since the Cuban Revolution. That is very true, I think. I became acquainted with it at about the same time as everybody else, in 1960, beginning in 1960. I always felt that the Cubans were being pushed into to the Soviet bloc by American policy. I still feel that way. Our policy, if it had been handled differently, and many others much more informed than I have said the same thing, if that situation had been handled differently, we would not have the big problem of Castro's Cuba now, the big international political problem. Although I feel that it's a just and a right development in Cuba, still we could be on much friendlier relations with them, and had the government of the United States, its government agencies, particularly certain covert undercover agencies like the now defunct CIA. And
Now defunct?
Well, its leadership is now defunct. Allen Dulles is now defunct. I believe that without all that meddling, with a little bit different humanitarian handling of the situation, Cuba would not be the problem it is today.
Is there any
All right.
particular act of the U.S. government, do you feel that...
4357, last one.
How many television sets and how many radios and all that.
This is Butler.
This I do not think is
Butler
a
comes
subject
in.
to be discussed tonight. The Fair Play for Cuba Committee, as the name implies, is concerned primarily with Cuban-American relations.
How many people do you have in your committee here in New Orleans?
I cannot reveal that as secretary of the Fair Play for Cuba Committee.
Is it a secret society?
No, Mr. Butler, it is not. However, it is a standard operating procedure for a political organization consisting of a political minority to safeguard the names and the number of its members.
Well, the Republicans are in the minority. I don't see them hiding their membership.
The Republicans are not the Republicans are a established political party representing a great many people. They represent no radical point of view. They do not have a very violent and sometimes emotional opposition as we do.
No, I see. Well, would you say then that the Fair Play for Cuba Committee is not a communist front organization?
The Senate subcommittees who have occupied themselves with investigating the Fair Play for Cuba Committee have found that there is nothing to connect the two committees. We have been investigated from several points of view, that is, points of view of taxes, allegiance, subversion, and so forth. The findings have been, as I say, absolutely zero.
Well, I have the Senate hearings before me, and I think what I have in front of me refutes precisely every statement that you just made. For instance, who is the honorary chairman of the Fair Play for Cuba Committee?
The honorary chairman of this committee, the name of that person, I certainly don't know.
Well, let me tell you, in case you don't know about your own organization.
No, I know about it.
His name is Waldo Frank, and I'm quoting from the New Masses of September 1932. The title of his article is How I Came to Communism, a Symposium, by Waldo Frank, Where I Stand and How I Got There. Now, let me ask you a second question. Who is the secretary of the Fair Play for Cuba Committee, the national secretary?
Well, we have a national director who is Mr. V.T. Lee, who has recently returned from Cuba, and because of the fact that the United States government has imposed restrictions on travel to Cuba, he is now under indictment for his traveling to Cuba. This, however, it's very convenient for rightist organizations to drag out this or that literature purporting to show a fact which has not been established in law. I have said that the Fair Play for Cuba Committee has definitely been investigated. That is very true. I have also said that the total result of that investigation was zero. That is, the Fair Play for Cuba Committee is not now on the Attorney General's subversive list. Any other material you may have is superfluous.
Mr. Oswald, I may break in a moment. I believe it was mentioned that you at one time asked to renounce your American citizenship and become a citizen of the Soviet Union. Is that correct?
Well, I don't think that has a particular import to this discussion. We are discussing the Cuban-American relations.
Well, no, I think it has a bearing to this extent, Mr.
Again, they're
Oswald.
trying to corner
You say
him.
apparently that Cuba is not dominated by Russia, and yet you apparently, by your own past actions, have shown that you have an affinity for Russia and perhaps communism, although I don't know that you admit that you either are a communist or have been. Could you straighten out that point? Are you or have you been a communist?
Well, I had answered that prior to this program on another radio program.
Are you a Marxist?
Yes, I am a Marxist.
What's the difference?
Well, the difference is primarily the difference between a country like Ghana, Guyana, Yugoslavia, China, or Russia. Very, very great differences. Differences which we appreciate
Okay,
by
you can
giving
stop
aid,
now.
let's say, to Yugoslavia in the sum of 100 million.
What are your thoughts? I mean, dude,
Ghana, Guyana.
I mean, listen, he was obviously like ganged up on by, Stuckley, Butler, Borellay, etc. And I think he held his own, and he doesn't come off to me as some like crazy radical. I think he's
Definitely read up on shit, right?
right,
And this,
self-taught.
well, and this is what leads me to, down the path of coming to the realization of who Lee Oswald actually was. At one point in time, I believed he was, this sheep dip guy working undercover for our government, pretending to be pro Castro. When in fact, I think he was pro Castro, legitimately.
Me too.
I mean, you don't go through this much trouble just to pretend to be somebody for some kind of a reason for so long a period of time. I mean, this is a long con, if it is in fact a con. I mean, we're talking about a 4 to 5 year grift, con, whatever you want to call it.
Right.
I just
And of
don't-
course, FBCC wasn't even formed then.
Right, but you have
In the
Oswald
beginning of the con.
in the Marines, studying Russian, and then defecting to Russia pretty quickly, getting a early dismissal from the Marines. And if it is a con, it's an extremely long con
An extremely well played one.
for whatever purpose. But when you hear this guy talk, you can
kind of
hear the passion in his voice.
right. You could feel his enthusiasm into these subjects.
Right, like he's all in. He's getting pamphlets made up. He's handing shit out on the street. He's ready to talk to people about it. He goes on the radio, goes on television. I mean, he's doing all this stuff, and to me, it seems legitimate. You contrast that with the signature analysis that we've been doing of certain documents that he was signing and what he was doing, the purpose of the trip to Mexico, and all of that. I don't know. To me, it seems like if he was truly legitimate, this is what incensed and pissed off the anti-Castro Cuban exiles, right, that were around Oswald, enough to make this guy turn out. And I'm not saying just because he was legitimately pro-Castro, he took out Kennedy, right? But he pissed off enough of these anti-Castro Cuban exiles, I think they wouldn't have any problem setting up this fool to take the rap for killing Kennedy. Right. And it would appear to everyone, at least on the surface, that this guy would have been capable of it, given his viewpoints.
Right. And his, ability to be articulate and self-taught. You could see how they thought this could be a threat. And then when you compound that with the fact that he tries to infiltrate them, allegedly,
Look, could he write? No. Could he spell? No. Does his punctuation suck? Yes. I don't think he had passed a 10th or 11th grade education, and that's after switching schools like 15 times in 10 years. You know what I mean?
Yeah, true. Yeah.
He wasn't the best at school, but he read books. We have his library records from when he came back from, at least from when he came back from Russia. He was an avid reader
Yeah.
of a variety of different books.
Good vocabulary as well.
Yeah, I mean, he was using some big words there in that interview.
That's what I'm saying.
And
And he's being ganged up on in this interview. And, he's not like prepping, he's not reading from notes or anything. It's very interesting when you consider all this. So, but they obviously kind of, I don't know, stuck the dogs on them. I don't know if that's the right term with Butler and Stucky and Bernier, although Oswald kind of initiated that part. And propaganda was just flying in Nolans. And I'm not saying that propaganda, Ed Butler knew about the assassination or something like that, but was this an anti-FPCC operation? Were they that concerned that this young man was going to rile more people up to the cause? Maybe.
because think about it for a second. So the people that suspect that, okay, Oswald is working either undercover for the FBI or the CIA, something like that, right? And you can suppose that, that's been a popular theory for a long time. Oh, they were sheep dipping Oswald, blah, 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 blah.
Right.
And what people forget is that there was a lot of anti-Castro Cuban exiles, not just in Miami, not just in New Orleans or Dallas, who were informing to the FBI. I mean, they didn't need Oswald to pretend to be somebody to get intel on the anti-Castro Cuban exiles.
Right.
They were telling on themselves.
Right. They were all like grifters in a sense.
Right, but they were all telling on themselves. They didn't need to send Oswald in there to pretend to be somebody he's not in order to gain intel.
Right.
They were already telling on themselves to the FBI. And oh, by the way, the CIA was funding all these damn anti-Castro Cuban exile groups. All these groups had handlers, CIA handlers. So the CIA didn't need to send in Oswald undercover to do anything. You know what I mean? The CIA and the FBI already knew everything that was going on with the Cuban exile community.
Yeah.
The CIA was funding them. Okay? And the FBI knew everything already. So I just don't buy the fact that Oswald is pretending. I'm not buying that he's sheep dipped. I think he's legitimately everything that he says he is.
Mm-hmm.
Which leads me to believe this too, Joe.
Okay, go ahead.
So, everybody wants to believe Oswald on November 22nd when he says, I'm just a patsy. I didn't shoot anybody, right? But they're quick to dismiss him when he's saying that he is a pro-Castro supporter that wants fair play for Cuba, fair treatment for Cuba from our government.
Right.
So, you can't have it both ways.
Right. And I 100% agree. And I urge everyone who is kind of questioning this to go listen. I believe it's on David Von Payne's YouTube channel. And I mean, I listened to all 50 minutes of it, like almost an hour or something along those lines. His passion comes out really obviously, unless he's the biggest actor in the world. I believe him. I believe he was looking for, he puts down Russia, but he's thinking Fidel Castro could be somewhat different. I mean,
Well,
and
look,
he
here's the
thinks,
thing, Joe. The thing with Cuba is it's different. All right, it's different than like a Hitler or a Stalin or somebody like that that's in power for years and years and years and years and years. Well, Castro would go on to be that, but at the beginning, right before Castro, there was Batista, who was very unpopular with the
corrupt.
Cuban people. Right, he was corrupt, but you know what? The United States government had him in their pocket. Right, he
Right.
played ball.
Mm-hmm.
Right, but
Yes.
he was bad for Cuba. So when the Castro uprising, the revolution, ousted Batista and he took over, everybody was happy in Cuba. Not so much the United States government, right? But things kind of changed relatively quickly once Castro assumed power and he converted to communism and befriending the Russians and all of that.
Right.
Then the Cuban people changed on him, right?
Mm-hmm.
They no
Right.
longer supported him. He was worse than Batista, right? Now, they got fooled, which pissed them off.
Hey, we've gotten fooled recently. No more comments on that.
Won't get fooled again.
No, no, I completely agree. It wasn't like so cut and dry. And I think what Oswald was saying in one of those clips was the U.S. Policy kind of pushed them towards allying with Russia, and it's very nuanced. What he says, and Sally said, hold on, what did she say? True, I don't believe he was a communist. I don't think he was for dictators at all. Neither do I. I think he was towing the line between a socialist and a Marxist and whatever, and he wasn't thrilled with capitalism, but he wasn't a straight communist. Maybe he subscribed to a magazine or two, but that could have been just to keep up with modern discussion, whatever. I don't know. I think he was very much in search of the best political system, and I think he walked into a really bad situation with a bunch of dangerous characters, and I think he was framed.
Yeah, I mean, and Oswald got a taste of it, right? Because over here, yeah, capitalism can suck for people that just can't get ahead. They can't catch a break. They're not born into wealth. They come from poverty. There's a cycle that keeps repeating itself and repeating itself,
Correct.
right? So at
Yes.
that point, to Oswald, communism looked good because everybody gets treated the same. Everybody gets 3 potatoes and a bottle of vodka and a loaf of bread, and you make the same amount of money. You give in the same shitty apartment, whatever. And you go there, but you don't have the freedoms that you do here to be more outspoken, to do what you want, to go where you want, when you want, and to own what you want. You can't. I mean, you're just another gray person in a gray society, right?
Right. Right. And he grew very disillusioned with it pretty quickly.
Right. That's
I
why he
mean,
came back.
right. And you're talking about the only dude who staged a protest at the radio factory or whatever he worked at in Minsk, right? I mean, he didn't give a fuck.
Yeah, and they're like, "What are you doing, dude? Shut the fuck up!"
Yeah, all the Russians were like, "What are you doing?" And he's like, "I don't care." Protest. So the fact that he would be protesting relations with Cuba isn't that surprising to me.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, again, I think he was just a disillusioned dude,
Right.
who was trying to find a happy place that he could exist in, but nothing was working for him, right?
Right.
And was getting to Cuba and is Castro the answer for him? I mean, he'd already been to Russia, didn't like it. Been in the United States, didn't like it.
Didn't like it.
So what's next? You going to try Cuba?
Hey,
I don't know.
I don't think that's far off, man. I really don't. I think, and you got to remember, this is a 23, 24-year-old kid, right? And granted, you know, 34 is the new 24, right? People were more, um, I don't know. They were more, what's the word? Mature then. But yeah, I think he was looking for something. I think he was having problems with his marriage, and I think he fucked around and found out. FO, as the kids call it.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that he couldn't find an ally in the United States, right? Like it's hard to find somebody that of the same opinion as you here in the United States, in a free country.
Especially
Never,
southern United
yes,
States.
it's never experienced living in a communist country like he did,
Hmm.
right? People can't just put their mind in that way of life unless they've actually done it. Well, he actually did it, and I think that's why he was somewhat alienated in his thought, and as a loner, whatever you want to call him. I mean, of course, he had the opportunity. He had the means and opportunity to make friends. He did in Russia. He did in Dallas. With Michael Payne and George the Moore Shield and people like that, Wesley Frazier. I mean, it wasn't like he was, a social retard, if you will, but he was one of these guys who had just weird ideas that were not popular with other people because they couldn't understand where he was coming from. And I think that was a problem for him. Nobody really understood him, and trying to do these things and be so politically ambitious and involved and trying to change policies and all this when you can't get any more than a lousy, shitty job, making minimum wage, and now you're toting around your Russian wife and your two kids. It's hard to do.
Right. Yeah. And let's see here on a comment or two before we sign off here. Sorry, not agreeing. And you don't have to agree. I implore you to listen to his full radio interview and decide for yourself on if he's genuine or not. I listened to it and I decided sounds pretty fucking genuine to me. So
Like I
that's
said,
just my thoughts.
if it's a con, it's a long con for somebody who barely finished 11th grade and then went immediately into the Marine Corps and had in his mind then at the tender age of 17 that he wants to start studying Russian with the eventual mentality that he wants to move to Russia and then come back, because all this kind of starts when it doesn't happen, like he doesn't do this as soon as he comes back from Russia. When he comes back to like Fort Worth and Dallas, right, in 62, you don't see this kind of interest or activity in the Fair Play for Cuba Committee until 1963. And especially when he gets back to New Orleans and he's around all these anti-Castro Cuban exiles and he sees, what these guys are doing, how many of, they're very prominent in the community. Dallas is kind of more, Southern white people. There were Cuban exiles there, but they were more secretive in their communities than more out in the open. Like I think that anti-Castro Cuban exiles were very comfortable in New Orleans. It was a comfortable atmosphere. Like everybody was on the same page, even white people. You had Guy Bannister and all these other white people, interested in the cause, and participating in these groups against Cuba. So would he have went this far in this whole fair play for Cuba thing if he hadn't went back to New Orleans in April, Joe? I don't know.
I don't know either.
Because that's when he really started up writing to VT Lee, getting his membership card, forming a branch, and all this stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then eventually into August with the fracas and the more letters and this, that, and the other. And I think, he was building a legend for himself. But I don't think he was building a legend to incriminate himself. I think he was building a legend so he could do what he did when he went to Mexico, which is lay all this shit on the table and say, look, I'm trying to get to Cuba. I'm a Fidel Castro supporter. This is everything I've done. I am a part of the Fair Play for Cuba committee. I've been arrested for, supporting Castro.
Right.
I've went on TV and radio supporting Castro. This is all the things that I've done. I need an immediate visa to Cuba, like right now. And they were like, yeah, sorry, bud. Not good enough.
Right.
Got to go talk to the Ruskies over there. They got to say okay first.
Right.
Shit.
And Tiny said that he wasn't a kid. And I'm not saying he was a kid. Listen, he had 2 kids. He had traveled the world for, since 59? When he joined the Marines or whatever. I'm just saying.
He got out of the Marines. He joined at 17.
Oh, that was 57. 57, right?
56.
56. But my point being is that I think as a younger individual, he was searching for something. Not that he wasn't a grown-ass man or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, he was searching for some type of asylum, some type of system that he could live in and be happy with. I don't think he found it in Russia. I don't think he found it in Dallas. I don't think he found it in New Orleans. And I think he was like, well, maybe fuck it, I'll try Cuba. I don't know. Food for thought. Food for thought.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a very interesting food for thought, for sure. And I know it's a controversial hot take.
Yeah,
if you will.
it is.
But we're not alone in this thinking, Some very smart folks are along the same lines of thinking here when you actually take a look at what he was doing. There's no evidence whatsoever of the hidden hand of the CIA maneuvering this guy around. That's what's missing, right? You can throw a bunch of names at the Velcro wall and see what sticks, and you can assume all these nefarious CIA people like Bill Harvey and David Morales and whoever, Joe Anides, were running this guy and all. Like I said, you got to remember, they didn't need somebody like Oswald. They're funding these anti-Castro exiles. Their groups have handlers, and the FBI had more informants than they knew what to do with, more information than they knew what to do with all these groups. They didn't need somebody like Oswald to infiltrate and pretend to be somebody he wasn't. They just didn't need that. And sure, there was a false defector program. I get it. Our CIA wanted to know what was going on behind the Iron Curtain, but you got to, if we're being honest, admit that there is some scafoozes who, after the way Oswald grew up in that environment with his overbearing fucking mother and being left alone all the time and moved around from house to house and school to school to school.
No father.
no father is going to be searching for something different in his life, so, to get as far away from that bitch as possible.
Mm-hmm.
There had to be some legitimate defectors who weren't always, it didn't always have to be a CIA undercover mission, is what I'm saying.
Right. And it doesn't mean that his file wasn't used in some ways by
Right.
counterintelligence or whatever. Like,
Of course, his name would have been flagged. Of course, he's acting weird. Of course, they would create reports about him. They could have
to
even used him in a mole hunt. Who knows?
right,
But it doesn't mean he had to be a knowing, willing participant in some undercover false defector program. I mean, I
right.
know it's not a popular sentiment, but if you believe, look, and I've been up, down, left, right on every side of this argument in the past 40 years looking at this thing.
Me too.
I've been a big believer, 9 ways from Sunday about Oswald. And this is just where I'm at now because nothing else really makes sense, right? It's always been the popular D. Eugenio way of thinking, well, he's been sheep dipped and, all this shit. And
Right.
it's
Everything goes
become,
back to the CIA and Dulles.
yeah, it's been part of this canon for all these years that, if Oswald's a patsy and Oswald wasn't shooting, then he had to be this and he had to be that. Well, not necessarily. He could have just been a fucking Scafuza.
It's Occam's razor to me at this point, man. But yeah, I agree with you. And like I said, Rob, if you want to use that link I sent you in the private chat of the David Von Payne's thing and link it to the description so people can listen and decide for themselves, I think that'd be cool. Because dude does not come off as a fucking radical at all. He comes off as a very tempered individual.
He's very knowledgeable. It doesn't sound like he's pretending or fishing for information.
Right. So listen to it for yourselves, ladies and gentlemen, and make up your own minds. We're just giving you our thoughts as we like to do here on the Lone Gunman podcast.
And, if Oswald was, undercover and doing this and doing that, they would have been paying this guy, right? And there's absolutely no evidence that this guy had any fucking money whatsoever other than what little bit that he was earning here or there. He was so worried about the unemployment commission getting his check from there. He was tight. He's a tight ass. You know what I mean? Where's the evidence that he's some so-called, FBI informant or CIA operative? I just don't see it monetarily for him.
Yeah.
But
and like you said, my thoughts have changed on this issue from when I first got into it, and
mine too.
and to where I am now, and that's what it's all about. It's all about the journey and keeping your mind open, and we're not telling you what to think or anything, but
just be open-minded about it. Because look, like I said, at one time I'm sure if you go back in older episodes, I was, oh yeah, he was informant S-172, according to Wagner Carr. FBI getting paid $200 a month, blah 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 blah. But there's absolutely no real evidence of anything like that.
not concrete.
The FBI weren't paying these informants like that. If they were, it was meager cash under the table type of thing. And like I said,
They wouldn't need to.
they wouldn't need to. They had a gazillion anti-Castro Cubans telling them themselves.
Almost every anti-Castro Cuban was an informant to either CIA or FBI.
Yeah. Well, the CIA was running all these.
Right, and they were funding them.
Groups. They all had handlers. They were funding them. They knew exactly what they were doing. Exactly. So they didn't need Oswald for their bullshit. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And who the hell is he anyway? He's nobody special. So I'm just not buying the fact that the long con theory
Yeah.
that of Oswald as the operative, because
Hmm.
there's no payoff for him. He gets fucked everywhere, which way he turns. Job wise, monetarily, relationship. This poor bastard can't get a leg up for anything, anywhere he goes.
Yeah.
I mean, the best he had it was when he was in Russia.
Yeah. Should have stayed in Minsk, man, and just banged Russian baddies all day.
Yeah, instead of knocking up Marina, he's made a mistake, bro. But I think that's the only thing that actually kept him in country longer than what he would have been had he not been married and had a kid to a
Yeah.
Russian citizen. But I'm sure she was in his ear the whole time. You take me to America. You
Yeah.
take me to America. I want white picket fence. I want the washing machine. I want to, you know, I want real shoes with laces.
It's true. She wanted out as well. I think that's well documented. And I
She
think you have
really
like
wanted out, Joe.
yeah, I think you have a situation of two kind of I don't want to call them misfits, but
Well,
I
that's
guess
the
that's the
description.
word.
He wanted
What?
in. He wanted in really bad, and she wanted out really bad, which is a bad combination,
Hmm.
right?
Well, he wanted in, then he wanted out.
He only wanted out because she wanted out.
Oh, I think he was disillusioned as well, in a
Dude, that's the
certain
best he had it.
right. But he didn't know that would have hindsight's 2020. He would not have known that that was the best he had it, right? Or he would have had it. I guess is my point. But
Well, no, he couldn't have predicted how things would go once he went home,
right,
but he didn't have it bad over there. But Marina, it, it's clear. I mean, look, Russia's a big country, right? And if you're some 19-year-old pharmacy technician, honeypot whore, right? You don't meet 3 American defectors, right? Date 2 of them, have relations with 2 of, or yeah, have relations with one of them. She met three American defectors,
right.
dated all 3, had
Web-
relations with 2 out of 3, and
Webster.
married 1 out of 3.
Right. Yeah,
So
and
that
then
doesn't happen organically in a bubble, folks.
yeah, and then you have the allegations of her with like what is it, some like Afghan minister or something like that. I don't know.
Now there's like
They're-
some Moroccan named Charlie who she was in love with, and
right,
it's a crazy story with Marina, you know.
right.
And poor Oswald knocked her up.
You ever hear about pulling out, bro?
There's too much vodka that night, Joe. I could not.
Hey, I
She was
don't
on
hate
top
on
of
that.
me. She would not get off of me.
Uh, well, I
That bomb. She had that. She had that bomb ass. Oh, that was probably
uh,
the first piece he had in his life, allegedly.
I mean, I think he probably had a couple like minor flings in Russia, right? He tried to propose to the other girl. He might have smashed. He might have not.
I doubt it.
But it would have been very few.
Yeah, David Ferry doesn't count in New Orleans. When he was
All
right,
right, guys, that is a tremendous ending rant for this episode. Um, whether you agree or not, we'll post that in the description, hopefully, and you decide for yourself because I didn't listen to it in a long time, and it really.
Well, Jack, I'll tell you. Why were they trying to go back then? Because things weren't working out here, and they realized how good they did have it in Russia.
Right.
That's why they were trying to go back.
Yeah. I mean, do you know people? And I've done this myself, right? Back when I was younger, who's tried to change their what's the word like situation or their thoughts or their hopes based on geography. Well, I'll move here. Well, I'll be better. I'll go to Colorado and things will be great. Now I'm going to come back because things have been great. Like, it's kind of just like human nature.
Yeah, you hear about, growing up, you hear about how cool California is, right? That's where
Right.
all the hot chicks are, all the hot guys,
Right.
Hollywood,
You see
beaches,
the movies.
everybody wants to move to California, start a band, get laid, whatever. That's where all the good drugs are, for whatever reason, you want to go to California, right? And some people do. They pack up and they go with a dream to get in a band or to become an actress or an actor or whatever the case may be. They get out there and realize, uh, it's a lot harder to do than just showing up in town as a pretty face with no connections and trying to get into the industry without compromising yourself and your integrity and your morals and everything else involved in all of this. And some people get stuck there, and some people are like, man, I really, really want to go back home to bumfuck West Virginia, where I came from.
Yeah, and 99% end up working at Starbucks, Southwest says.
Right.
Common
Or,
than that.
or becoming homeless or becoming prostitutes or moving home.
Yeah, yeah,
It's the
yeah.
American dream.
Or worse. But like everyone's always looking for something, and I think this is kind of the trend of their relationship, and specifically Lee's, in regards to Cuba. I don't know. I just see it as more of a human issue more than like a big conspiratorial intelligence
Chess piece
operation.
moving operation, yeah.
Yeah. So
All right, now we need you to move you here. We need you to do this. Now we need you to go here. Now you need you to do this.
right, right. Now I'm not saying he didn't have help getting into Helsinki, or figuring out that instant visa route, or that his file wasn't used. But I'm saying, for the most part, he was pretty much unwitting.
Or did he just get lucky with a dirty ass Russian operative in Helsinki who would do things on the sly for a couple extra bucks and expedite the process for you?
True.
You know?
Oof. All right. Let me see if I could grab the damn doggy here and mute myself as I say bye. All right, man.
All right, folks. That's it for another controversial episode of the Lone Gunman Podcast. We're glad you hung out with us and put up with us for this long. We appreciate the hell out of you. We know it's Friday night. So get out there, have some fun, start the weekend right. Party hardy. Have one for your boys. Have one for Ruby, who's going to get eaten this weekend by a husky. He's going to come in with another couple wounds next Wednesday. And
Like-
shoot off.
Like father, like daughter, right? Scars. Ruby
Yeah.
scars.
Ruby Scars. All right, folks, that's it for us. Slam the like button on your way out the door. We'd appreciate it. Share this
Yes.
shit. And let it be heard all through the world. To all the boys and girls. Go USA,
Yes.
allegedly.
America first.
I will be on next week with a CCCP jersey. All right, folks. We'll
All right.
be on the lookout for quick hits in the morning,
Yeah.
10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Be on the lookout for a random research ramblings with Rob. Be on the lookout for another book review, and then we'll be back next Wednesday for part 2 of this, where we're going to get into more Fair Play for Cuba Fuckery and some Harry Dean for you.
Sounds good, buddy. And I will be listening to Quick Hits on my drive up to the Catskills tomorrow morning. So I'm looking
Yes,
forward to
well, I've
that.
got a crazy story for Quick Hits, and it's got nothing to do with anti-Castro Cuban exiles. So, stay tuned.
Other scafoozery.
Yeah, other scafoozery. That is for sure. All right, folks. Until then, we'll see you. We love you.
Thank you Thank you.